guys, welcome back. Sorry that my videos have been so far apart. I've been dealing with a lot of personal issues, like I said, in the holiday season. But hopefully I'll be able to get back into my normal routine within the next few weeks. With that being said, hopefully anything's possible. But anyways, today I wanted to make this video before everyone else had a chance to jump on the bandwagon, broadcast it out there if they haven't already. But I just wanted to, I had a theory about this game when I first played it, because I saw Jacksepticeye play it, and I liked it, I enjoyed it a lot, and watching his videos on it, and so I decided to play it for my own personal use here and there. And when I got through the end of the storyline, I noticed that, well, first of all, there's spoilers a lot, like just spoilers. I'm going to be using a lot of cutscenes here to prove my theory, and go through a list of I guess, diagnosis, according to WebMD and, whatever. So, again, this is a combination of both my personal experience with that kind of illness. So, I do have a little bit of internal personal knowledge with it, not completely out the loop, but from what I've read also, I've got to learn a little bit about it. So, which is pretty much concrete in my mind more about this theory. But it's one of those things that it explains a lot of loose ends, and so hopefully this will clear up any misconception that people have. If not, that's fine. If I'm the only person in the world who's like, oh, this is a theory, and it's like obvious to everyone else, then just ignore it and continue on. Just pay me no mind. I just got excited because I was like, oh, I figured out something, and I gotta share it with the world. And, well, here we are. Again, spoiler alert, like, just, if you don't want, like, the cutscenes ruined for you, or whatever, definitely click away now, play the game, beat it, come back and share your thoughts with me. But, this game kind of lagging right now, so I don't know if it started lagging, I don't know if the video's going to keep lagging. Again, I apologize. I'm sorry about that. Hang on a second here. Let me adjust something. Just that. Oh, well, sorry about that. I was gonna try to change my broadcast, because if you're, sorry about the pauses, but if your quality's so high, it has a hard time getting the feed sometimes at night. I don't know how true it is, but the quality drops. Well, without further ado, quickly, to get into the long skinny of it, the psychotic disorder I was coming across, and like, yeah, it is a form of psychotic. It's of that nature. What he has is schizophrenia, to be more exact. About no, not schizophrenia, sorry. My apologies, let me redact that. It's paraphrenia. Paraphrenia? I'm saying that wrong, I apologize. I'm not a linguistics major or whatever, so. Basically what paraphrenia is it's a symptom similar to schizophrenia, but it starts later on in life when people are kind of elderly, and this is the reason why I say it is, because the fact that you start off with John, or let me rephrase that, the person intros, and I'll play the first intro to get into it. That's probably what I should do right now. I'm just kind of jumping into this, balls deep, half-ass backwards. Well, we'll figure this out, and I'll try to be as clear and as identified as I can. Again, this is the intro. This is where we all began at. For anyone who's played the game.
My name is Inspector John West. I was...
Take your time, Mr. West. Deep breaths. You want a drink?
Whiskey. Hold the rocks.
Hold the rocks. Hilarious, Mr. West.
Fuck you. My name is Inspector John West. I was the officer in command on the Party Hard killings.
Can you describe to me exactly what the Party Hard killings were?
They were a series of murders strung across the U.S. during the autumn break of 2000, exclusively taking place in and around house parties, rooftop parties, cruise parties, you name it. This guy was there, stabbing his way through the crowds.
And what was the motive, Mr. West?
This guy, he just wanted some peace and quiet.
Maybe you should start from the beginning, Inspector. It might give us a better idea of where this all went so wrong.
You see, that's the one thing that always got me. It's like about the intro and stuff. Like, that is the intro. And then guy to, which is Darius, by the way. Spoilers. We're gonna say where does it start at the beginning, basically? Like, inform me, like how do we get here? Like, obviously this is not the first. See, the first intro is right. You see the intro, you see the first, and you see bikers, on the screen, but that's not the true beginning of it, which is why it's obvious. It becomes more obvious, like he's a psychopath. Like here, I'll play the first one.
One of my officers responded to a call near North Beach. It was the end of April, so typically a bunch of the college kids in the area were getting hammered instead of prepping for their finals. If only the stupid bastards knew.
So, based on what we've seen there, the about the college kids. Start at the beginning, okay? Well, if you're going to start at the beginning, then why would you start at, yes, it's his first time technically killing in the story that he's trying to portray, but it's obviously not the actual first. And so it starts showing itself right away that so far the only two people that you see is a shadowy figure. Anyone can see shadows out of the corner of their eye. So, it doesn't add up that there's obviously... It doesn't show much proof that he's there. One of the psychosis, or one of the traits of the psychosis itself, is of schizophrenia, which is what John has. And the main reason why it becomes obvious that is John is because of the final clip that shows you of this right here. I'll play it for you now, called The Underground. And in the Underground, you get to see two key important things. You get to see his hat and the mask.
So, tell me, John, did you find what you were looking for down here?
You fucking tell me, Darius.
You know, John, we're not really that different, you and I. You can make out like you're the heart of gold and I'm the malicious prick here, but you never really tried to stop me, did you?
You say that like I had a choice.
You always had a choice, John. You know that.
You're not weak. You allowed me to do these things, John, and now you want to justify it all to yourself. Wash your hands clean of any wrongdoing. I'm not like you.
Come on, John. Sooner or later you're going to have to admit it to yourself. You enjoy the just as much as I do. The splatter, the silence.
Do they really deserve this?
John, look around you. The world is falling to shit. These people, they don't realize how good they've got it. We're doing them all a favor.
But
John, you just spent the last half hour sat here trying to convince yourself what we're doing is wrong. What have you learned?
Someone needs to be thinking about the picture, I guess.
There you go, John. You get it now. Let it go.
Come on, Darius. Let's go home.
See, it's kind of a little bit of the writings on the wall somewhat on that point. The fact that Darius and him are one and the same. Even through the first of the game, you call down, like you make a phone call and aliens come down, and that's the other part of, or continuing on with the addition of the schizophrenic disorder of. That's part of the delusion. No, not delusional. It's well, might as well be delusional at this point. Fuck, it's more or less hallucination. You know, he's not only seeing things that don't exist, but he's hearing it. You know, like he calls in one of the scenes where one of the episodes, one of the killings that he's doing at, you can call in like gas mask crew to come in and gas the place, which is unorthodox. You know, just for them to randomly come in, and then, or you can call in another psychopath killer and he just starts killing people immediately. Those are the vast hallucinations that he sees. And so he makes up Darius as trying to chase him because his psyche is so fractured. And then even when he talks about a daughter at first, like I'll play the scene now because he talks about daughter very deeply.
You arrived at the scene after the assailant had fled, correct?
A little after 3 a.m., yeah.
Were you aware of his current mental state at the time, Mr. West?
His mental state?
His condition. Yet a bright light leading him onwards.
I heard that bright light, as you so eloquently put it, was just a bunch of biker trash scumbags in search of lost souls. Guess he must have hitched a ride with them somehow.
Perhaps it was when they realized that the party was already dead. Excuse the pun. Speaking of dead, wasn't your daughter Katie at that party, Mr. West?
Seeing her blood zigzagging between those bathroom tiles, it was like a sledgehammer using my stomach as a welcome mat, drowning without water. Jesus. She was so messed up that I couldn't even ID the body.
And that's important. IDing the body is actually the very key phrase that it's almost glossed over at this point. Because it's like, oh yeah, I couldn't ID the body. How did you know it was her? I mean, we're talking about 1980s-ish, lights, glam, you know, the whole scheme of things. Blood analysis work for for the police field was very rudimentary. It was very basic. You barely had, you know, ABC, AB, and O positive blood readings at that point. So I mean, it wasn't like a hardcore thing. You couldn't exactly prove it with these. So for him to automatically somehow know that's his daughter, that leads me to a bit of sketch. So I'm gonna play the next scene here to kind of prove like how does he know? Let's see here. What was it? The yacht. Yeah.
Ah, yes, I heard about the cruise liner disaster. Although I assume it wasn't the rushing water that killed those people, as the news had us believe.
Sometimes it's easier to keep the people safe by shielding them from the truth.
Yes, well, that's an interesting sentiment, although I'm guessing the people on that boat may have felt a bit shortchanged. Though while we're on the topic of truth, you were about to discover a truth of your own, am I right, Mr. West?
The girl.
Yes, the girl. Tell me about the girl, Mr. West.
From what I understand, she'd been following him since he first began his descent to madness.
Stalking him, perhaps?
Label it what you want. Seems like she was a fan of his work. Wanted to study his methods, as sick as it sounds. She was always a troubled child.
You seem to be well acquainted with our newly found heroine, Mr. West.
And you know exactly why, you son of a bitch. It was Katie. It was my daughter.
See, that proposed a very question that immediately stuck out to me when I first saw it. Was like, how could he have a daughter and at the same time, how could she have already been killed? Like, so it's obvious. It becomes more and more clear to me in my mind. It's he, the whole daughter. She may have been real at one point in time, and it may be, again, this is just a hardcore linear theory that uh, the only person you have seen overall in this cutscene is who's Darius, quote unquote. But then in the underground, you saw that Miss is talking to himself. So Darius has to be a figment of his imagination. And if that's true, then means West is the guy in all of those cutscenes, besides the bikers, some of the ambulance worker. But as you see, this other probably wasn't even his daughter. It was just some other strange girl he just picked up on his mind killing spree, just resembled his daughter. So immediately in his mind, that's who she became. I highly doubt they went from, in the order of events, I highly doubt, oh yeah, the yacht happened first, and then it was, they went to the biker portion, because that's not, and the reason why it's impossible for that to happen is this next scene right here on the forest. I'll play for you now.
I finally caught them a few weeks later, out in the middle of nowhere. His car just pulled up onto a dirt path.
What was he doing, Mr. West?
I'd been staring at photos of Katie every night for the last month. The ink had started to run off where I'd been pressing the corners so tightly.
What was he doing, Mr. West?
He was admiring his handiwork.
I wouldn't worry, Mr. West. The chances are it's what she wanted anyway. To be one of his works of art, so to speak.
Fuck you. I was ready to put a bullet in the back of his head there and then. It would have been so easy, so satisfying. It was what he deserved.
What changed your mind?
Darius, the American people rely on figures like myself to uphold the law. Killing him would have made one and the same.
How very noble of you, John.
Once again, fuck you. But the world is a funny way of showing gratitude for such selfless acts.
I assume you're referring to the blinding light that apparently engulfed your car.
I still have no idea what it was, or what caused it. I guess this terror of darkness has somehow found a friend in the light. And of course, when I came to, I found my car had made a strong connection with rather incompatible foliage. Worse still, my back seat was devoid of serial killers.
Alright, now it's time for many of you who may not have ever had the pleasure of riding in the back of a cop car, those bitches they do not unlock from the inside. You have to unlock a cop car from the inside. So the possible way he could have escaped, unless it's like some kind of you could make the argument of like, oh yeah, it's the 1980s, they don't have that, which is bullshit again. They do have like the kick-proof plexi plate kind of glass roll cage from all those movies and stuff like that. And there's no way that police car would not have had that in it. I mean, there's no way that the assailant that he said, could have gotten up to the front seat door and hopped out. No, the back seat was locked. He would have stayed in there. There's no way he would have crawled out somehow. So it adds further to my proof that Darius is just a figment of his imagination. It's just his psychic is so broken from being a divorced husband all those years, I guess, and I don't know if his daughter actually died or whatever. He had his down. I mean, I know a lot of, I don't personally know a lot of cops, but I've seen a lot of stuff online and stuff like that. Like, police work, I guess back then and even today, can be extremely stressful if you've watched anything on the news being shot at and stuff like that. And, it can be extremely stressful. And I can imagine so for that time period. So imagine like he's probably a detective and he's really old. He's probably getting closer to his 60s or 50s and stuff, late 50s easily. And I'm guessing his daughter probably died young. The girl that's always portrayed, she looks about she's 16. So again, I'm just basing it off the other girl. So she had to have been young. That's what I'm getting at. Obviously. Uh, but the other part, and this leads into my next part of it, like even with the first scene where he talks about how his daughter was dead, and then all of a sudden the daughter was somehow alive and on the yacht and stuff like that, or catching up to him after the yacht killing, and then ultimately meeting her in the forest. It's the delusion that's part of the schizophrenic. So the delusion is a false belief that don't go away even after they have been shown to be false. For an example, a person who is certain his or her food is poison, even if someone else has shown them that the food is fine, has a delusion that the food is still poison. So those are the two key components. Other possible symptoms of psychotic illness includes disorganized or incoherent speech, and he does have a bit of disorganized speech because the fact that it's how he tells the story is not in like, oh, day one he did this, and it's kind of like a little all over the place in a way. Strange behavior, possibly dangerous behavior. The fact that he supposedly is somehow tracking this throughout. I'll show you what I mean. Like, supposedly a cop or a detective precinct and has a certain area that they would do. Like, he would know about things just through other cops. He wouldn't be hot on his ass 24/7. That's not really how detectives kind of work. I mean, you can work collaborate with other force agencies, and I'm not saying that's not impossible, but I highly doubt that someone of his profession or someone of his stature would probably be doing that. I mean, that strikes me being off. Just like that goes through like what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different 7, 8 different states and miles apart. No police ever funded, he would probably end up having to work with a serving this. Another one does that one. Working over the phone if anything. So, and I highly doubt that's the case anyway. He's talking about this because of the fact that he's mentally catching up to him. He's fighting back Darius in his mind and imposing his own will. That's the reason why Darius knows that he's not as weak as he says he is, because Darius has been fighting for control over this entire time. And so he's a mental breakdown where he's accepting Darius his own. Like, let's go home, man. Let's just, you know what, you're absolutely right. Everything is going because I am broken. That's clearly what it is. It's only him breaking down and accepting what he's done, because he's having some of the other possible illness includes like strange, impossible, dangerous behavior. It would be very strange for a detective on a case to do that kind of super traveling and stuff like that. At least not that I've heard of. I'd be wrong. Again, I don't do police work, but I will try more about it. To where if I've learned anything new, because I can easily ask a cop or two about possibly that area, I can find out more, so I'm not just talking completely out my ass. Again, I still don't see that. Another thing you have is like loss of interest of personal hygiene, which you don't see much of that. But it's obviously clear that the detective is distraught, so there's definitely easy to believe that he's only interested in this guy. So he has no interest in personal hygiene, obviously, at this point, from what I'm seeing. A lot's interest in activities, because the only activity he has on his mind is catching this guy. Again, delusional guy that's not even there. It's just part of his mental state. Cold, detached manner with the inability to emotion. Now, very powerful because the fact that even though he talks about feeling of it, expression doesn't really. He tells all of that in the same monotonous log that he had before. So it makes me go, I don't know. I don't believe that. Because if it was me having to retell the story of how someone super close to me like that died, I would be an emotional wreck. I'd be pouring tears down my eyes. Hey, man, you can be like, oh yeah, he was a detective. He was, he couldn't feel anything, even if he had a lighter pressed up against, burning them away with the flame. Like, I would, yeah, I just be like, nah. He just made up in his head. He attached because of those reasons. He's also has wild swings. Well, I guess one could say mood swings. And the reason why it does, maybe, is because the fact that of. Well, no, there we go. This right here.
I finally caught them a few weeks later, out in the middle of nowhere.
Oh,
His
no,
car
no, no.
just pulled up on
Sorry about that. Wrong one. There we go.
the descent. A violent maelstrom. Nature has a way of bringing the most devious of minds back down to earth. And shortly after the Sawmill Massacre, our psychopath succumbed to the outdoors, of all things.
Really now, Mr. West, can we stop with the cliched storytelling? This isn't a tale from Narnia. How could you possibly know his motivations for being in that wood? Perhaps he wanted to feel closer to nature. Perhaps he was tired of killing. Just maybe he wanted to feel closer to his victims.
All I know is, when the cops turned up to search the surrounding areas, they turned up nothing. And this was a place right out in the middle of nowhere, so it wasn't like he could have gone far. There was only one possible explanation. He'd managed to hitch a ride out of there.
You think he called the paramedics himself?
Well, it makes sense, right? Splatter yourself with some of the blood at a mass murder scene, and the medics aren't exactly going to be picky about who they pick up. He's breathing, so you get him to the wagon ASAP. Of course, this particular victim was breathing a little too well for his or their own good. I guess they may be adding a new phrase to the ambulance protocol handbook. Never give drugs to a psychopath.
Well, it's like he says, like, how do Darius... It's like what Darius asked Mr. John. Like, how do you know throughout all of this? How do you know all this? When you obviously wasn't supposed to be there, when you're telling the story from an outside point of view. It's all in his mind. All of it's in his shattered mind, unfortunately. And the bad part about this is the fact that as I read through along and stuff like that, and I'm trying to stay accurate as possible when I talk about it, that this is during the time where medicine was really at its best. You didn't have good background checks. I mean, most people argue today that they throw pills off. They throw pills out on the pharmacy shelf like crazy, and so there's like a million different type of ways to treat the different things. So, but that's not the point. Point of it is that the quality of medicine today is somewhat than what it used to be, or at least I feel like it's tenfold better in some cases. I mean, we don't use a lot of the older medicines because they're obviously ineffective. They didn't do as good as they used to. Formulas has changed. Formulas gotten better. That's my overall point. And hopefully in the next 10 years they'll get even better. But I'm not pushing drugs on anyone. I'm just saying that but it's one of those things that see here. I was going to try to find the diagnosis for this, for the type of illness he has, because it is late in life and because it's out the blue. It's like I'm reading from this WebMD and stuff like that. I'll quote it more or less. Doctors don't know exactly what causes psychotic disorders. Research believes that many things play the role. Some psychotic disorder tends to run in family, means that the disorder may be partly inherited. Other may also include stress, drug abuse, and major life changes. Now, stress and major life changes is two things that kind of coincide one another in a way. You know, he probably did have a daughter and he lost her. Okay, and that caused a major life change between him and his wife, where they got divorced. And he clings to the memory of when she was alive, and the stress of being in a small apartment away from everything he once knew has caused him to break down mentally in life, which is why the photo had to fade, because he talks about he's holding the photo for months and months and months, and this is not taking quite as long. This is happening very rapidly, party, in a very short frame. Within, we'll say this is 6 months, and I don't know, I've never held a hand for 6 months squeezing the fuck out of a photo, but I imagine even those kind of Polaroids back then, that some kind of durability. So I imagine it was probably a very long length of time of that he was holding that photo for, or even if the photo was real. I don't even. At this point, I'm starting to doubt that the photo exists. Um, but because of that, to his psychotic breakdown in such a way. Because, sorry, I'm sorry if you keep pausing, I keep reading. But that's my main reason why is the fact that he's a psychopath. That's the reason why I believe that that's the theory, the whole storyline. And even if, because in the beginning of the game, the only person is, they call them heroes, but that's part of the delusion. He's not a hero. He's out murdering people. A guy sleep. I can relate to that shit on a personal level. I love sleep. I can get it. I want all of it. And then you also get, which is obviously John West, is to beat the overall storyline. And he can bear dead bodies, but he can't use trap. So, and then the last one is Maystar Massacre. That's the have eyes. No, Texas Chain guy kind of deal. I don't know. I didn't actually think he has a chainsaw. Either way, he's some mass murder guy. But the point, the only person truly in the overall storyline, if you think about it, in the actual psychosis of it, who's really doing anything is the one I have highlighted right here. Dark is figment of imagination, or just maybe Don just in clothes, like he's going out to party, he has a mask on, and then the middle one being the ninja. And then, of course, the girl here is supposed to be his daughter, which again is just an illusion. Again, you can play through all these missions mode-wise with any person unlocked. Like, this mission here has to be done with first. It has to be. There's no other way around that. So it's unusual to think that the chainsaw guy, it was a lot easier because of the fact that he's got an instant kill weapon that you can just swing about. But sorry for those off. But either way, while he was able to party bus, murder people, things going down the highway, and no one's able to do the fact that there's a cop there, murdering everyone. It's still, it adds belief that he was that. So it kind of backs it up even more so, and the fact that freaking craziness going on. There's a lot more to it. Like, why is there a guy who's willing to sell you stuff? He will rat your ass. He will. I've seen him do it. It's crazy. But again, even the guy's killable. So why would a guy selling you stuff kill people, like with bombs, smoke bombs and stuff? Why would he you out if he's on your side? And it's all that guy's probably, he's not. Yeah, you get what I'm trying to say. This is just in John West's head. Unfortunately, he's a guy who, and he's telling the story. Everyone in the cutscene, the only person you really see is John West. Sorry about that. Anyways, guys, I'm going to end the video here. Thank you for joining me. I will be doing another video soon. I just got to get switched around. And if you like this theory, I'll try to come up with some better theories in the future, but it's hard to really I guess, theorize these days, because it seems like everyone's on top of their A game. And I felt pretty good the fact that I sat down and actually researched this, and I'm able to either, if you didn't care about theory but you at least learn something new, then cool. Or if you're just got to know a little bit more about how schizophrenia works, that's even better, because after all, like I said, it's one of those things that I like sharing things with you guys. But if you liked it, definitely smack the like button and subscribe. And definitely, I'm hoping for this new year to start off right. And I'm trying to get some shit together so I can start getting into being a better provider, YouTube channel, guy, person, thing. I don't know. Just like and subscribe. And definitely, I'll see you guys next time. Or you guys will catch me next time. Other than that, either be good or be good at it.
I didn't catch them in Miami. I didn't even visit the scene.
Why was that, Mr. West?
Tired, I guess. I'd been chasing this nut job for months by that point. And now that Katie was confirmed to be in his company, it was a lot for one man.
Oh, hold